Hey, what's up everyone? Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye here. Just wanted to give you a quick tip on how to photograph using macro photography snowflakes. It is snowing outside right now, early in 2017, right outside of New York or North Jersey. And I just figured I was bored today, so I decided to do a little bit. Just wanted to share what I did and hopefully help you out in the future. So in theory, photographing snowflakes, I guess, isn't a hard thing. You just need your camera and you need to point it at some type of snow or some snowflake remaining somewhere, but it takes a lot of patience and actually a little bit of preparation. So here's what I did to achieve one of my photographs, and I'll show you some of the steps along the way. Now, one of the biggest tips is to get something that is some kind of fabric or something that's a flat surface that is not heated, because anything with heat will obviously melt the snow. So you need something that will get attached to the snowflake or the snow to a fabric. So one of the first things you'll see, I just have a red dish towel right here. But the good thing about this is it has like fibers, and that when you like hold it outside or anything like that and you try to collect the snowflakes in the snow, it will attach to the fibers and not necessarily dissipate in any way. The one thing I would recommend is definitely putting this in the fridge or something like that, like for 5 or 10 minutes, just to get the temperature cool of this, so that way it matches what it's doing outside, as it's very cold outside. So as you'll see right here, I did a couple attempts right here, but I wasn't able to get that close, and I was still having a little bit of issues on getting exactly what I want because this is pretty thick, so this didn't work. One of the best things I recommend is getting something that is black and, that it stands out. And I just have a black cutting board right here that has great material on it that doesn't heat up quickly. So this is one of the things I'll use in the final photograph. So I use my Nikon D750, which is filming me right now, and then I use the Nikon 105mm macro lens to achieve this shot. Now, to get even closer with these, I would recommend extension tubes, but really it's not a hard thing. It's just knowing how to shoot macro photography. This is my final image that I got with right here, and here are my settings that I achieved. I used an f10. Even though you're using macro photography, you'll still see that there's some stuff blown out, and it's just because you're super close using a macro lens. That's just some of the effects. Now, I used ISO 1600, and you might be thinking I'm crazy because it's very bright outside. Why would you do something like that? It's just because you need a lot of light. Now, a lot of people like to use ring lights in front of things to light. I just don't have that, nor do I think I needed it, and it came out pretty well, but that could also help. And I use a shutter speed fast enough of 1/125th of a second, so that way, when you're kind of rocking back and forth doing macro photography, and that's one of the biggest tips, is to definitely get your focus, is to have it very shallow to where you know it's going to be, and to rock back and forth and fire shots so that way you could hit something in there. And it's not, and it is kind of spraying and praying, but macro photography, especially with something like that will never autofocus or anything, can be very tough. So I also recommend using manual focus. So get whatever fabric you have or anything, put it on there. And like I did, I held my hand outside of my window and I let this hit for like a minute or two, and I caught with what I did, and then everything started to really clean up. But I got one clear shot of something when I finally took like an hour to do. I used those settings like I said, and then with one hand I held that and I was just rocking back and forth after I got extremely close focus on something, and that's how I got that shot. So I held it right here and I was just kind of firing back and forth, and after a few shots I finally got one that actually worked. Once again, it takes a lot of patience to do something like this, but if you want to get even closer, maybe set it up on some kind of stand or something like that. But once again, you have to watch out for heat, as that will obviously make the snowflake melt and everything. Getting extension tubes to get really close can make it even better, and that's how you get the black backgrounds where you're right on top of the snowflakes. It's just that I don't really have time for that, nor do I have extension tubes, but with the Nikon 105 macro, I think it did a pretty darn good job. If you have any questions or comments about this, please let me know down below. It'd be great to answer anything, and hopefully this helped you out a little bit. Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye. Snowflake on, have some fun. It's cold season, people. Let's get through it.